April 4th, 1943, 0417 hours, somewhere over the North Atlantic. At 18,000 feet, B-24 Liberator, serial number 42-95592, shudders like a wounded animal. The first engine dies with a metallic scream. The second follows 12 seconds later. The third doesn't explode, it simply winds down, the propeller freezing in place. Inside the aircraft, the noise drops by half. That's worse, because everyone on board knows the rule. A B-24 can limp home on 3 engines. It can sometimes survive on 2. On 1 engine, it doesn't fly. It falls. Captain William Bill Hanrahan grips the yoke as the nose begins to sink. The airspeed needle trembles at the edge of the red. The Atlantic waits below, black, freezing, endless. The navigator whispers what no one wants to say. We're not going to make land. There are 9 men aboard. No parachutes rated for this altitude. Water temperature, 36 degrees. If they ditch, survival time is measured in minutes. And yet this aircraft does not go down, because someone on this crew is about to suggest the dumbest idea anyone has ever heard. And it's about to save all of them. For the moment, none of them know that. All they know is the aircraft is bleeding altitude, and time is running out. In the cockpit, nobody speaks. Every man is doing the same silent math. Distance versus fuel, altitude versus airspeed, hope versus gravity. Outside, the Atlantic doesn't move. It doesn't rush to meet them. It simply waits. The consolidated B-24 Liberator is a paradox. It's fast. It's long-ranged. It carries more bombs than a B-17. But it has a secret flaw. The B-24's Davis wing is thin and efficient, perfect for speed, terrible for low-speed lift. Lose too much thrust, and the aircraft stalls violently. By 1943, the Atlantic Air War is brutal. German Focke-Wulf 200 Condors and U-boats said, "You work together," hunting bombers and patrol aircraft far from land. Loss rates are staggering. Between January and June 1943, Coastal Command loses 1 aircraft for every 90 hours flown. Many are never found, just oil slicks and debris. Hanrahan's aircraft is one of them, at least on paper. A fuel line rupture caused by flak over the Bay of Biscay has starved 3 engines. They're feathered now, but drag is killing them. The Liberator is descending at 400 feet per minute. They have 6 minutes. The math is merciless. At this rate, they will stall long before the ocean rises to meet them. The B-24 was never designed for forgiveness. Its wing rewards speed and punishes hesitation. Slow it too much, and lift simply disappears. This isn't pilot error. This is design meeting reality. In the waist compartment, Flight Engineer Sergeant Thomas Reed is staring at the dead propellers. Reed is not a pilot. He's not an officer. He's a mechanic who understands engines the way farmers understand weather, by instinct. He speaks up. "What if we unfeather engine 3? The co-pilot turns around, incredulous. "That's insane. A windmilling prop will tear us apart." That's what every manual says. A dead engine's propeller creates drag, enormous drag. Feathering aligns the blades with airflow, minimizing resistance. Unfeathering one would create more drag. On paper. But Reed isn't thinking about drag, he's thinking about lift. A windmilling prop doesn't just resist airflow, it disturbs it. It creates turbulence, chaotic air, and turbulence over a wing can delay stall. It's ugly. It's inefficient. It's absolutely not approved. But they are about to stall anyway. Hanrahan hesitates. "How long before we stall?" 2 minutes, the navigator replies. Hanrahan makes the call. "Do it." No one cheers. No one argues. This isn't courage. It's exhaustion colliding with inevitability. If this fails, there will be no time for a second idea. Reed reaches the control. He pulls the lever. The dead propeller begins to spin. The aircraft shudders violently. Loose gear rattles. The airframe groans in protest. For 5 seconds, the descent increases. Then something changes. The nose steadies. The airspeed needle, impossibly, climbs. Not much, but enough. The B-24 stops falling. They are flying on 1 engine and 1 ghost. No one speaks for several seconds. They are afraid that acknowledging it might break it. Hanrahan keeps his hands light on the yoke, afraid even small corrections might ruin whatever fragile balance they've found. For the first time since the engines died, the aircraft feels alive. In the waist gunner position, Corporal Jimmy Chen stops praying. His eyes are still closed, but his lips have stopped moving. He's afraid that finishing the prayer might end whatever miracle is happening. The altimeter needle trembles. 1,950 feet. 1,975 feet. 2,000 feet. It's not climbing. Not really. But it's stopped falling. And that's everything. Reed's hand stays frozen on the lever. His palm is slick with sweat despite the freezing air screaming through the gaps in the fuselage. Behind him, Lieutenant Morrison, the navigator, is scribbling calculations on his knee pad with hands that won't stop shaking. Distance to Ireland, 320 miles. Fuel remaining, maybe 2 hours. Airspeed, 95 knots. The math doesn't work, but the aircraft is flying, so he keeps calculating anyway. Co-pilot Jenkins breaks the silence first. Is this real? His voice cracks on the last word. Hanrahan doesn't answer immediately. He's watching the instruments, waiting for one to betray this fragile equilibrium. They don't. Reed, Hanrahan says finally. His voice is steady. Command voice. Don't touch anything. Wasn't planning to, sir. Good. And 30 seconds pass. The aircraft holds, level flight at 2,000 feet on one engine and whatever dark magic Reed has accidentally conjured. Jenkins, Hanrahan says. New heading, 095. Ireland, 095. Ireland. Jenkins makes the turn so slowly that the instruments barely register the change, 5 degrees at a time, like defusing a bomb. In the ball turret, Sergeant Frank DeMarco feels the aircraft bank and his stomach drops. He's been silent since the engines died. Now he whispers into the intercom. We're turning? Affirmative. Hanrahan says. We can turn? Gently. DeMarco laughs. It's not a happy sound. It's the sound of a man who thought he knew what death looked like and just found out he was wrong. The turn takes 4 minutes. Most pilots make the same turn in 30 seconds. But most pilots aren't flying a 32-ton bomber on one engine in borrowed time. When they roll level on the new heading, everyone holds their breath again. The aircraft settles. Holds. They're pointing at Ireland now. 320 miles of ocean between them and land. It might as well be 320,000. But it's a direction. And direction is hope. The mission briefing was routine. Target, U-boat pens at Lorient, France. Time over target, 0645. Expected resistance, moderate flak, possible fighters. Standard. They'd done it 17 times before. The B-24 Liberator, tail number 4252163, nicknamed Dakota Dreamer, was part of the 44th Bombardment Group, 8th Air Force. She wasn't the newest bird in the fleet, or the prettiest, but she'd brought them home every time, till today. The bomb run was clean, payload away at 0648. Good hits on the target. They were turning for home when the first engine quit. Number 1, just stopped. No warning. No fire. No smoke. Feather 1, Hanrahan ordered. Standard procedure. Reed moved to comply. But before he could reach the controls, number 2 went. Then number 3. In 18 seconds, they lost 3 engines. The B-24, 32 tons of aluminum, fuel, and crew, became a glider. A very bad glider. They were at 8,000 feet when it started. By the time Reed pulled the lever, they were at 2,000, 100 feet and falling at 400 feet per minute. 90 seconds from impact. No one was screaming. That's what Reed remembers most. No one screamed. They just got very, very quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when everyone is doing the same math and arriving at the same answer. Hanrahan's voice on the intercom was steady. Prepare for ditching. Not if. When. Morrison grabbed the emergency raft. Chen tightened his flak vest. DeMarco cranked himself out of the ball turret. No one wants to die in a steel bubble under the aircraft. Jenkins started whispering the Lord's Prayer. Reed, standing at the flight engineer's panel, stared at the 3 dead engine gauges and thought, this is stupid. Not dying. Dying made sense. What was stupid was accepting it. Reed's hand hovered over the feathering lever for engine number 3. The manual said, "Never unfeather a dead engine." The manual said, "It will increase drag and accelerate the descent." The manual said, "You will die faster." Reed thought about the manual. Then he thought about the prop wash from the single working engine, number 2, and how it created a river of fast-moving air over the wing. And he thought about the dead engines, and how their locked propellers created smooth laminar flow, perfect aerodynamics, and completely useless. What if, he thought, we don't want perfect? What if we want messy? 1,800 feet, 60 seconds. His hand closed on the lever. "Reed, what are you doing?" Jenkins asked. Reed didn't answer. He pulled. The spinning prop creates a disturbed airflow across the wing root. That turbulence energizes the boundary layer, the thin sheet of air that keeps lift attached to the wing. Modern aerodynamics would later call this boundary layer control. In 1943, it's just called luck. The aircraft can't climb. It can't turn sharply. But it can stay level. Barely. They set course for Ireland, 320 miles away. What Reed has done isn't magic. It's accidental science. The physics are brutal in their simplicity. Air moving over a wing creates lift, but only if the air stays attached to the wing's surface. Separate that airflow, let it break away, and the wing becomes just a flat piece of metal falling through the sky. At slow speeds in a glide, the airflow wants to separate, wants to give up. The B-24's wing is thin and efficient, not designed for one-engine flight at 95 knots. At that speed, the boundary layer, the microscopically thin sheet of air hugging the wing, is dying, becoming sluggish, ready to quit. Reed's windmilling propeller is a crude, violent solution. It's throwing a wall of turbulent air across the wing root, high-energy chaos that slams into the dying boundary layer and shakes it awake. It's not elegant, it's not efficient, but it's working. The effect is strongest on the inboard section of the wing, exactly where the single working engine's thrust is trying to roll the aircraft into a death spiral. The disturbed air from the windmilling prop creates a pocket of extra lift, just enough to balance the asymmetric thrust, just enough to keep the wing from quitting entirely. In 1943, no one has a name for this. In 1956, NACA will publish a paper on powered boundary layer control. In 1968, the YC-14 prototype will use blown flaps, jet exhaust directed over the wing, to achieve short takeoffs. In 1982, it will be standard technology. But today it's just Reed, watching the altimeter hold steady, and thinking, I have no idea why this is working. I'm just glad it is. The B-24 was never supposed to fly like this. Nothing was. The aircraft's design philosophy was simple. 4 engines, heavy payload, long range. Lose 1 engine? No problem. Lose 2? Manageable. Lose 3? The manual doesn't even discuss it, because the assumption is you're dead. But Reed has accidentally discovered something the engineers missed. Sometimes the best aerodynamics aren't the cleanest. Sometimes you need to make the air angry. Morrison finishes his calculations. We're not going to make it, he announces. No emotion, just facts. Fuel burn at current power setting, 90 gallons per hour. Fuel remaining, 140 gallons. Time to Ireland at 95 knots, 3 hours 20 minutes. Silence on the intercom. We're 90 minutes short, Morrison says. Hanrahan absorbs this. Recommendations? Ditch before we run dry. At least we'll have control. It's the smart play. The safe play. Go down on your terms. But Hanrahan is looking at the altimeter. 2,000 feet. Steady. Against all odds. Negative, he says. We lighten the aircraft. Sir, everything that isn't bolted down. Overboard. Now. For 5 hours they fly like this. Every change in altitude threatens a stall. Every gust could kill them. They throw everything overboard that isn't bolted down. Bombs. Ammo. Even the radio. At 0923, land appears on the horizon. When they touch down at RAF Ballykelly, the landing gear collapses. The aircraft skids to a stop in sparks and smoke. But it stops. All 9 men walk away. Ground crews stare at the aircraft in disbelief. 3 dead engines, structural damage. Burned oil streaks along the fuselage. No one can quite explain how it stayed airborne. The crew doesn't try. They're too busy breathing air that doesn't smell like fuel and fear. The first thing to go is the ammunition. 12,000 rounds of .50 caliber. Chen and DeMarco push the cans to the waist gun windows and heave. The cans tumble away, glinting in the morning sun, trailing bullets like silver rain. 675 pounds gone. The aircraft rises 30 feet. It's working, Jenkins breathes. They throw faster. Flak jackets, toolkits, oxygen bottles. The auxiliary fuel tanks, empty, but still heavy. Morrison's navigation equipment, his maps, his sextant, everything. DeMarco looks at the ball turret. What? Chen asks. We can jettison the ball turret. Another 400 pounds. They stare at it. Do it, Hanrahan says. It takes them 12 minutes to unbolt. When it falls away, tumbling toward the ocean, DeMarco watches it go. Sorry, girl, he whispers. The aircraft rises another 40 feet. They're at 2,100 now, 100 feet of margin. It feels like miles. But Morrison's math is unforgiving. We're still 40 minutes short. No one answers. There's nothing left to throw. Except people. No one says it. But everyone thinks it. 9 men at 180 pounds each. 1,620 pounds. 3 hours of flight time. The math is simple. Obscene. But simple. Hanrahan sees it on their faces. No, he says. Not loud. But final. We make it together, or we don't make it at all. It's not strategy. It's not tactics. It's just a line in the sand. And everyone on the intercom relaxes just slightly. Because now they know. Whatever happens, it happens to all of them. At 0847, the working engine coughs. Just once. A brief stutter in the rhythm. Everyone freezes. It catches again. Runs smooth, but the message is clear. The fuel is getting really low. Jenkins checks the gauge. 45 gallons. 30 minutes. Maybe. At 0903, Morrison sees it. A dark smudge on the horizon. Could be clouds. Could be land. He stares through the navigator's window, barely breathing. The land, he says. 11 o'clock. 30 miles. The intercom erupts. Voices overlapping. Laughing. Crying. Hanrahan silences them. Quiet. We're not down yet. But his hands are shaking on the yoke. Because they might make it. Against every law of physics and probability. They might actually make it. The last 30 miles are the longest. The engine runs rough now. Coughing every few minutes. Starving. The fuel gauge reads 5 gallons. Then 0. It stays on 0 for 8 minutes. Impossibly. Running on fumes and prayer. At 0921, they're over land. Greenfields, stone walls, Ireland. At 0923, Hanrahan sees the airfield. RAF Ballykelly. Emergency lights already flashing. They know something broken is coming. Gear down, Hanrahan orders. Jenkins reaches for the lever. Pulls. Nothing. Hydraulic pressure is gone, Reed says. Of course it is. Manual extension, Hanrahan says. Jenkins and Reed crank the hand pump. 30 seconds. 60. The gear starts to move. Left main, down and locked. Right main, down and locked. Nose gear, halfway. Then stops. It's jammed, Reed says. Keep cranking. They crank until their arms burn. It doesn't move. We're landing with a half-down nose gear, Hanrahan says. Jenkins looks at him. That's going to be exciting. Yep. At 0926, they're on final approach. The engine coughs twice, catches, then dies completely. Total silence except for wind. They're gliding again. But this time, there's a runway ahead. Hanrahan has one chance. Too high, and they overshoot. Too low, and they hit the trees before the threshold. He splits the difference. Aims for the numbers. The B-24 is a glider again. But this time, it's a glider with a destination. At 50 feet, they cross the fence. At 20 feet, Hanrahan pulls back on the yoke. Flares. The main gear touches first. Smooth. For half a second, it feels like a normal landing. Then the nose gear contacts. Collapses. Instantly. The nose hits the runway at 90 knots. Metal screams. Rivets pop. The propeller of the working engine hits concrete and disintegrates in a shower of sparks. The aircraft slews left. Hanrahan fights it, uses differential brake, but there's no hydraulic pressure. The B-24 spins. Once. Twice. Then momentum runs out. It stops, facing backward on the runway. Nose crushed, tail high, surrounded by sparks and smoke and the smell of burning metal. But stopped. For 3 seconds, no one moves. Then DeMarco starts laughing. Real laughter this time. The kind that comes from the gut, he says. We're alive. The emergency crews reach them first. Firefighters with foam, medics with stretchers, but when they open the waste gun hatch, the crew is already moving. Standing, walking, stunned but intact, all 9. A fire captain looks at the aircraft. 3 feathered engines, 1 destroyed. Nose gear collapsed. Structural damage along the entire fuselage. Burn marks. Oil streaks. Missing panels. Jesus Christ, he whispers. How? No one answers. Because they don't know. They just know they're standing on solid ground instead of at the bottom of the Atlantic. And that's enough. The incident is quietly reported. No commendations. No doctrine changes. The official conclusion. Non-repeatable. Unsafe. And yet, similar stories begin to surface. Pilots surviving impossible odds using the same forbidden trick. Today, powered boundary layer control is standard aeronautical science. But in 1943, it was just a mechanic saying, what if we try something stupid? And 9 men lived because of it. The manuals remain unchanged. The lesson passes quietly to pilot, to crew chief. Not everything that saves lives fits neatly into doctrine. Some things survive only as stories, till the moment someone needs them again. Reed is debriefed 3 times. First by the base commander, then by an engineering officer from right field, then by someone who doesn't give his name or rank. They ask the same questions. Why did you unfeather the engine? I don't know. It seemed like we had nothing to lose. Did you understand the aerodynamic principles? No. Would you do it again? Reed thinks about this. If the alternative was dying, yes. The unnamed officer makes notes. Closes his folder. This conversation is classified. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Good. Dismissed. The official report is filed under equipment malfunction, engine failure, survivable. No mention of Reed's trick. No mention of boundary layer control. Just, crew performed emergency procedures. Aircraft recovered to base. Bureaucratic, forgettable. Designed to disappear. But stories don't disappear. They mutate, spread, evolve. 3 weeks later, a B-17 over Hamburg loses 2 engines. The flight engineer, a kid from Ohio named Patterson, remembers hearing something. A rumor. About a B-24 that flew on dead engines. He unfeathers number 3.